Yes, I'm hearing all these stories. Yes, I saw this person. We were friends. We were together. I never forced myself on them. They consented to everything, and I would never do that. I mean, how does he win? He can't win. So there's nowhere for him to go right now.
If you're his lawyer, what are you telling him to do? Just be quiet?
I tell him get some pudding pops and some Jell-O and Camille and go on a vacation somewhere. Go to Europe and hang out. That's what I tell him.
Well,
I like
those
pudding pops are good. I don't even are they around anymore? Because I used to love those things. Jeez.
Absolutely, but there was one settlement though back in 2004, 13 women in all. We'll see if this goes anywhere for his legacy.
There was one civil settlement, and the thing is this: people settle cases for various reasons. Just because someone settles a case doesn't mean that they committed a crime or they committed any sort of act that would have warranted a judgment against them. There are a multitude of reasons that go into settlements. And that's why settlement discussions and negotiations are not admissible in trial. If the settlements break and you end up going to trial, all of that is not admissible because everybody's encouraged to settle cases. So who knows why Bill Cosby settled that one case? I don't know why. I'm not going to read into it. I've instructed many clients to settle cases, whether they were innocent or guilty of anything, because sometimes it's cost prohibitive to litigate these things. Sometimes there's no upside to you to do it. Sometimes it's just in the best interest of everybody to put it away. And there's a lot of reasons that go into settlements.
No question. I want you to hear Stephen A. Smith on the Adrian Peterson situation, and then I want to get your take on the Adrian Peterson situation.
I came to Cleveland last night. I woke up this morning, Skip Bayless. It was 1 degree. I don't want to hear any complaints from Bristol about cold weather today. I don't want to hear it.
Poor thing. Your jet set lifestyle is cold there.
This is the reason I will never forgive LeBron for leaving South Beach. This is what I'm talking about.
I just saw you on ESPN last night at halftime of one of the games, didn't I? How did you get to Cleveland last night? Did you walk?
I took a car service 5 hours from Indy to Cleveland.
Oh, it's a tough life,
and
guys. Yeah, it's a tough life, huh? It's 1 degree.
I'm here. I'm ready, but it's cold. Right. It's cold.
Stephen A. Smith is in Cleveland, where LeBron and the Spurs play tonight. We will discuss that a little later on in our show. But let's talk about the other things that will be on the show today. We missed you yesterday for 24 hours of college basketball. We will discuss the freshman phenom, Jahlil Okafor, coming up a little later on in the show. But first, let's get right to it. On Tuesday, the NFL notified Vikings running back Adrian Peterson that he's been suspended for the rest of the 2014 season, and his return to the league will not be considered before April 15th of 2015. The league is suspending Peterson for violating its personal conduct policy after he pleaded no contest earlier this month to reckless assault of his 4-year-old son. The NFL Players Association says it plans to appeal the suspension. The arbiter in Peterson's grievance hearing has ruled in favor of the NFL, saying the league can keep Peterson on the commissioner's exempt list, which effectively ends any chance that Peterson will play again this season. But he will be paid while he's on that list. But according to Peterson's attorney, he should have been reinstated immediately after his legal issues were resolved. Let's listen.
I'm just speechless because in this country we usually don't have punishment being made up as it goes along. And then for Goodell's statement to be so hypocritically self-righteous about Adrian not showing sufficient remorse, who in the hell does he think he is?
The citizens of Texas, in a grand jury proceeding, after hearing all the testimony and seeing the evidence, chose to indict Mr. Peterson for a felony count of abusing a child. Mr. Peterson entered a plea, and the judge in Texas, not Roger Goodell, the judge in Texas, found that there was, in his words, substantial evidence to support Mr. Peterson's guilt. And Mr. Peterson, not Roger Goodell, Mr. Peterson signed a paper acknowledging, quote, I am criminally responsible. And it was fully appropriate for the NFL to impose some discipline pursuant to the process that was collectively bargained.
Okay, and Roger Goodell, in a letter explained this. He says the punishment. The injury inflicted on your son includes emotional and physical trauma to a young child who suffers criminal physical abuse at the hands of his father. Again, that was part of Roger Goodell's letter into why he decided to issue that punishment. Stephen A. Smith, we discussed this on the show, and we're not discussing how you should discipline a child, but we are talking about Roger Goodell, the discipline in which he handed down to Adrian Peterson. What do your reaction to the suspension?
Well, I think it was excessive. I completely agree with Adrian Peterson's attorney, Mr. Rusty Hardin, particularly when he said to Roger Goodell, who the hell do you think you are? I stand by those kind of assertions. I stand by those kind of questions in a manner in which it was vehemently expressed by Mr. Hardin, because I think it was appropriate in this particular situation. We all understand that Adrian Peterson is no martyr. We all understand that he was incredibly wrong and egregious. We also understand that, again, when we saw those marks in that child, we all considered it abuse. We talked about it on this show ad nauseum. That, to me, is a separate issue in this respect. Obviously, he went on the commissioner's list. He was being paid at the time, of course, but he wasn't allowed to play football. Well, now that the decision has been made and the plea deal was reached or what have you, I personally would not have had any problem whatsoever with Commissioner Roger Goodell confiscating the remaining $4.1 million of Adrian Peterson's salary or fining him $5 million or what have you. But the games missed are the games missed, and that obviously to me should be enough. The fact that this is extended to an entire season, to me, it reeks of a PR move on the part of the NFL, who know that they performed a dereliction of duty for so many years as it pertained to a bevy of issues affecting its league and their willingness to address it. Had they addressed these...
Richard Herman, when you hear all this stuff, Rusty Hardin, Stephen A. Smith, what's your standpoint with Adrian Peterson?
Well, there's a couple issues here. There are procedural issues, and then there are the moral issues here. So understand, for one, that Roger Goodell has absolutely been humiliated by the Ray Rice situation. I mean, that is complete and utter humiliation. To make a determination, give a punishment, and then have that video come out with him knocking out his girlfriend, dead cold on the floor there, then dragging her out and dropping her head on a marble floor, and, you know, the slap on the wrist that he gave him really just humiliated him in the public eye. And then on the heels of that comes Adrian Peterson, 6 feet, 6'1", 200-pounder, solid muscle, probably bench presses 450 pounds, takes a branch off a tree and strips the leaves, puts the leaves in his 4-year-old son's mouth, and then begins to violently whip this kid with the kid's pants down. Just whip him 15, 20 times, who knows how many times, because he doesn't know. Okay? A 4-year-old. I mean, what did the kid do? Did he go out and shoot someone? I mean, what did the kid do? He wanted some chocolate or something. I mean, some ridiculous reason here for this type of discipline. So, what happens? Well, Peterson gets indicted. He gets indicted for felony, and a plea deal is entered into. And Rusty Hardin's a great lawyer and did great with Roger Clemens, and so there's a great resolution to the case where Peterson didn't even have enough balls to get up there and allocute to what he did. He just took a no-low plea, which meant he really, I don't want to say yes or no here, I just basically can't defend myself, and that was his position. That's a cheap way out. That's a punk's way out. He should have stood up right then and there and admitted to what he did, but he didn't do that. But he did get convicted now. And what did he get convicted of? He got convicted of misdemeanor reckless assault. So on a job application, Mr. Peterson, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Answer, yes. Can't say no. It's not a speeding ticket. It's not a parking ticket. It's a misdemeanor. It's a crime. He has a criminal record. So he beat the crap out of this kid bad, real bad. And he pled guilty to a crime. So the NFL, on the heels of Ray Rice and on the heels of Roger Goodell saying, now I'm going to enhance the penalties for any types of domestic abuse, for first offenses of assault, battery, domestic violence. It's going to be an immediate 6-game suspension and could be worse. And then he looks at Adrian Peterson, and Peterson is basically telling people, yeah, on the way to court, I got high, I did a little drugs, I did a little pot, and he really hasn't shown a lot of remorse, and he really hasn't shown remorse. So why be appalled at that statement by Goodell? I mean, everyone sees it. I think Peterson 100% believes what he did was okay. His daddy did it to him. His daddy's daddy did it to his daddy. That's how we do things in the South. In the Northeast, they took belts out and belted us. But, either way, it's not going to be tolerated in the year 2014. So while the NFL is trying to clean up its image, on the heels of that, you have Roger Goodell imposing this suspension for the rest of the season, which, by the way, I predicted this is exactly what was going to happen to Peterson. But the problem here, and there's a procedural problem, during the course, while this is pending for Adrian Peterson, the NFL then goes ahead and enhances its punishment for domestic abuse. Yeah. And the argument here is because this punishment was not in place before the events took place with Peterson, he should not fall under that guise. It should not be retroactive against him, and therefore it's excessive. What's happening to him, they're arguing that it's unprecedented, it's arbitrary, it's unlawful, and they're demanding an independent arbitrator. They're not going to get an independent arbitrator. They have to argue along the lines that because the NFL's policy in place at the time the incident took place, that's what Peterson should be punished for. Either way, let's face it, the guy did not play he played, one game and then sat out for 6-7 games? He got paid. He got paid for those games. And so now it was always going to come to the NFL to make an ultimate determination what to do with him. It was always going to them. They didn't collectively bargain that once there's a judicial determination that he's reinstated. That was never going to be the case. He sat out voluntarily and got paid. He got paid. Now, what did he get? $3-4 million a game? I don't know what he got. He got a lot of money to sit out and rest up his body.
Not as much as that baseball player. The baseball player was on 13-year. But honestly, can you tell my audience, if it was a low-level person that lived in, let's say, the Bronx, same situation as Peterson, just doesn't have as much money, where would that person be right now?
If this was a young black father in the Bronx who took a branch of a tree and beat the crap out of his son the way Adrian Peterson did, he would go via Rikers Island and be probably incarcerated right now. That's what would happen to that individual. So, that's the thing. There are two different types of justice for the rich and wealthy, justice for the poor in the country. Sadly, there is. And this is a classic example of it. I mean, he got off light here. I understand it's a first offense for him. I understand all of that. But look, I know what he did to this kid, and I saw the evidence of it on the kid, and I've listened to Peterson give interviews and listened to him talk, and of course the case didn't go to trial, so I didn't get a chance to evaluate the evidence, but it seemed to me that there's a reason it didn't go to trial, because it was probably indefensible, this case. So you make a deal, they made a deal, and Peterson's got to live with it. And frankly, look, to finish out the rest of the year not playing and come back next year and be able to play next year. And by the way, there's no guarantee right now, because Goodell said maybe April we'll take a look at you and see if you've got therapy and you're showing some remorse. And if you are, then I'll reinstate you, basically. So it's up to Adrian. It really is. And he had plenty of opportunity to show remorse. He had plenty of opportunity to go to the NFL and say, listen, I really made a mistake here. I recognize what I did was wrong, and I will never, ever do this again. He didn't do that. So if Rusty Hardin really wanted to represent him properly, I think that's what he should have done. He should have gone in, sat down with the NFL, with Goodell, acknowledged everything that he did, and assured them that this conduct and behavior would never, ever happen again, because that's what the NFL is looking for, and that's what society is looking for. Whether you're a football player or a plumber or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever you are, or a famous talk show host like you, this is what people want to see. They'll give you the benefit of the doubt one time, but assure us it's never going to happen again. And, Adrian didn't really do that, so he's paying the price.
What's your take on Rusty Hardin? the lawyer. He got Clemens off.
Yeah, Rusty Hardin is he is a well-respected veteran, sophisticated, excellent criminal defense attorney. Knows a lot of people and is very talented and has gotten some tremendous results over the years, including Roger Clemens. So, kudos to him. He got a good resolution here, but I think he could have taken it one step further, and he should have known that the NFL, on the heels of Ray Rice, were going to be so sensitive to a case like this that he should have gone above and beyond the call of duty here, and he didn't. So now everyone wants to take appeals, this and that. It's outrageous. It's unprecedented. It's arbitrary. It's all this. That's going nowhere. Roger Goodell is the king of the NFL. He makes the owners tons and tons of money. They are never, ever going to terminate Roger Goodell. He's there to stay. He's the king, and it's either his way or the highway. Unfortunately, that's how it is.
All right, staying on the NFL, give me a take on the whole Ray Rice situation and where they stand right now.
Ray Rice is a very interesting situation, and again, it's just procedural, because if you look at the events that took place there, and I believe from everything I've read that the NFL had that video. I believe that all this information was in the possession of Goodell when he made his initial determination, and I don't believe he saw it. So that's negligence. I mean, that's just basic negligence on Goodell and his staff to not have vetted this case fully and understood it before rendering a punishment